Great North Woods to the Rockbound Coast and streaming live in HD worldwide at foxbangor.com. More people choose Good Morning Maine.
Hello everyone. Today on Good Morning Maine, the state of Maine is mourning the loss of game warden Josh Tibbetts after he died in a plane crash. We're now learning more about what happened. Plus, state officials question the validity of a petition and those involved. We'll have the details coming up. And Bangor city councilors voted to ban storing belongings on city sidewalks. We'll have the latest on that ahead. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Maine. I'm Janessa Bishop. Craig Colson is off for the day. We'll have those stories and much more coming up. And as always, we thank you for joining us. Today looks like it will be a cloudy day with temperatures in the 60s. Let's start off this morning by getting a first check of our forecast. Devin Biggs joins us now.
Alrighty, Janessa, thank you very much. Happy Wednesday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Rogan's Memorials. Give the gift of comfort through thoughtful planning with locations in Bangor, Bucksport, and Lincoln. Alrighty, here we go. We have frost advisories and even some freeze warnings across the state, and that will last until later on this morning at around 9 a.m. Even small craft advisories along the coast as well. Meanwhile, as we do move forward this morning, we are watching some clouds that are moving in from the southwest and going toward the north and east with another area of low pressure that is currently on the way. And this will give us some opportunities for rain showers, but we will have to wait until the afternoon period for that to move in. And there it is right there tracking off towards the east at this moment in time. Meanwhile, moving forward today, Futurecast watching the clouds approaching. There is the rain this afternoon and even some rain showers lingering into the evening, some breaks at times, and we'll be watching for more rain as we head towards your Thursday. As for the gusty winds, again, we're going to be watching for gusts up to around 20 miles per hour. And again, those gusty winds continuing into the evening period too. Meanwhile, your hourly forecast moving forward, again, watching for clouds, afternoon chances for rain showers, temperatures in the 60s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Janessa?
Alrighty, thank you, Devin. We'll look forward to that. Well, first this morning, as we mark National Police Week, a time to honor all those in law enforcement, the state of Maine is suddenly mourning the loss of one of its own. Maine game warden Josh Tibbetts died yesterday in a plane crash, and we're now learning more about what happened. Our Callie Warren with the latest.
Repeat number 4, Schoolhouse Pond Road in Avon. Going to be a 911 automated crash detection.
Yeah, a little before 11 o'clock today, we got news that there was a plane crash in Franklin County and quickly learned that it was one of our game warden pilots, Josh Tibbetts, who crashed.
50-year-old Joshua Tibbetts was a New Gloucester resident, a father, and a game warden pilot. On Tuesday, he died on a solo flight over Schoolhouse Pond in Avon, a town in Franklin County near Rangeley. He was stalking fish and collecting data on that flight before an unknown cause led to his crash. It was a routine operation that officials from Fish and Wildlife described as being over typical terrain. His aircraft automatically dispatched a distress call around 11 a.m.
We often say that members of the state law enforcement put their lives on the line each day, and that is never more evident than today. This is a day we hope will never happen, we'll never see, yet sadly it happens far too often. We're grieving the loss of a dedicated public servant, colleague, and member of the Maine Warden Service.
Officials say Franklin County emergency personnel and police were the first to reach the scene, later joined by wardens. They say that the FAA is investigating. Folks from the NTSB will be coming up from Florida Wednesday to join them in that investigation, which is standard procedure in any aircraft crash.
Today's incident is a somber reminder that the daily job of Maine game wardens, as well as all of our first responders, is perilous and full of uncertainty. We have been in communication with the FAA as well as the NTSB and will be assisting them with their investigation over the upcoming days.
Tibbetts' career with the Warden Service began in 2008, and he was promoted to a pilot in 2023. In a social media post from the Warden Service in November of 2023, congratulating him on that promotion, they wrote, "Warden Tibbetts will be instrumental in law enforcement and search and rescue efforts, and will provide invaluable support for resource management, including data collection and fish stocking." End quote.
We don't recognize fully how much they put themselves at risk every day what dangerous situations they put themselves in on our behalf. The hardworking men and women of the Warden Service are guardians of our outdoor heritage. They're preserving the woods and waters and wildlife of Maine, and they're protecting hundreds of thousands of people as people explore the wilderness and experience the wonders of our state.
Law enforcement agencies across the state are joining the Warden Service in mourning this loss.
Today's crash is an absolute tragedy which will permanently change the lives of so many people forever.
Tibbets' remains were received by the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Augusta. The investigation into the incident is still in its early stages. Callie Warren reporting for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Well, as the state grapples with the loss of Warden Tibbets, Maine law enforcement gathered in Augusta yesterday to pay tribute to past officers who made the ultimate sacrifice. Our Alex Schley has more.
Ebenezer Parker, Cumberland County Sheriff's Department. Charles E. McIntosh, Portland Police Department. Frank C. Wing, Maine State Police. Robert L. Moore, Maine Warden Service.
Patrolman Pearlie Kenny of the Westbrook Police Department became the 91st name added to the Maine Law Enforcement Officer Memorial.
When you think about the 91 people that are on the wall, they've literally given their all on behalf of our state and our community, and there is no greater sacrifice than giving your life in the line of duty.
The memorial, dedicated in 1991, has served for decades as a place of remembrance for the men and women who never made it home. At least one of the sisters of Detective Gil Landry say one of them has attended every ceremony since the memorial was established.
It's an honor because I don't want anyone to forget who Gil was and who all the other officers that have given their lives to us, for us. So I'm honored.
We miss him every day. We cherish the times that he was with us.
Their brother, who was a detective for the New Gloucester Police Department, was shot and killed in Lewiston in 1989 while investigating a child abuse case. Landry was the 7th Maine officer killed in the line of duty and one of the first honored on the memorial. Officers say the wall stands not only as a tribute, but also a reminder of the extraordinary sacrifices made by law enforcement officers across the state.
I think just having these memorials here, whether it's today or some random Tuesday in August, it should be powerful for everybody to take a look and stop by and say hello to our heroes.
In Augusta, Alex Schley for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
In other news this morning, a former Corrections Department official was sentenced for his role in a massive kickback scheme. Gerald Merrill once served as deputy superintendent of the Mountain View Correctional Facility in Charleston and the Down East Correctional Facility in Machiasport. During that time, he came under suspicion for fraud. State Auditor Matt Dunlap helped investigate the agency compliance with the use of state procurement cards. He, along with the AG's office, discovered Merrill's misconduct. Dunlap says that Merrill had been using his procurement card to make fake purchases to an accomplice out of state, and then the money was kicked back to Merrill. They believe that he received a little over $500,000 in kickbacks. Merrill was arrested, charged, and then later pleaded guilty. He was then sentenced on Tuesday to 10 years in prison, with all but 5 suspended for theft. Dunlap says they believe it's the biggest fraud perpetrated by a state official in Maine history.
When something like this happens, it's such an incredible betrayal of the public trust, and it lowers the confidence of the public in our ability to take care of the government that we are charged with taking care of. Yep. And to me, that's the lasting damage from something like this.
Merrill must also serve a concurrent 5-year term for a forgery charge, as well as 3 years probation, and pay roughly $500,000 in restitution. Officials from the Secretary of State's office questioned those involved in a citizens' initiative after challenges were filed against the initiative's petitions. The initiative is an act to designate school sports participation in facilities by sex. Initially, the Secretary of State's office found the petition efforts to be valid. A suit was then filed to challenge that decision. Officials with the Secretary of State's office questioned those involved on how they gathered their signatures and whether those who were petitioners were actually qualified to be. There is no clear timeline thus far as to when a decision will come down. Meanwhile, Democratic gubernatorial candidate Hannah Pingree announced she's been endorsed by Maine Attorney General Aaron Frey. Pingree made the announcement at the Penobscot Judicial Center in Bangor. She said she is deeply honored by AG Frey's support and understands the pivotal partnership between governors and their legal leaders. Frey said that Pingree's experience and leadership in state government makes her highly qualified to lead the state. He also said the proof is in those who have already worked with Pingree.
When you want to learn about a leader, don't just ask them what they think about leadership. Ask those folks that work for them about how they lead. And to the person, every person that I've talked with that has worked for Hannah Pingree has identified that her vision and the way in which she supports her team is important. We need that in state government.
Well, Bangor city councilors voted to prohibit people from storing belongings on city sidewalks. This comes after concerns were raised about an increased number of unhoused people gathering at Bangor's Pierce Park. But the city still has a major issue to address. Where will they go now? Our Grace Blanchard with more.
All of us are in survival mode and trying to find a place that we can go, even if it means having to risk our lives to do so.
When the winter warming shelters closed in Bangor last month, many people like Jeremy Belanger and Ash Morrow found themselves sleeping on the street.
When these warming shelters were open, Bangor area shelter was full, and all these warming shelters were filled to the brim. So we literally have nowhere to go.
When the closure happened, it led many unhoused individuals to go to Bangor's Pierce Park.
You know, Pierce Park is right next to the library, and as we know, it's like the last public space, and it was like the only option available to people, so they took it.
However, officials say it has created challenges for police and safety hazards, with people leaving their belongings on the sidewalk.
Just in the name alone, sidewalk, it's a place where people should be allowed to walk.
Monday night, the City Council voted unanimously to pass a modification to an existing sidewalk ordinance that prohibits people from storing belongings on city sidewalks.
It is not good. They're refusing to help us, yet want us off the streets.
Pressure from the community led to a recent reduction of hours at Pierce Park and more police in the area. Councillor Michael Beck says this remains a complex issue.
It's one thing to answer the question of where people can't be. I want to see us answer the question of where can we be or where can they be.
According to Councillor Beck, the modifications to the ordinance will take effect 10 days after the vote. In Bangor, Grace Blanchard, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
The time now is 8:12. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, a local brewery in the community is helping a state trooper and his family after a house fire. We'll have the story coming up. But first, another look at the forecast. For today, mostly cloudy skies with a chance of rain in the afternoon, highs around 61. Overnight tonight, rain early with some clouds and areas of dense fog, temperatures in the mid-40s. And for tomorrow, mostly cloudy with yet another chance of rain showers, highs around 63. We'll be right back.
Ready to create your backyard oasis? Alexander's Professional Landscaping will work with you to create your perfect outdoor space. Work one-on-one with our landscape designer to create a unique garden to fit your family's personal aesthetics and lifestyle. Have our pros install your new lawn, garden, or patio. Schedule a consultation today by calling 573-4497. Alexander's Professional Landscaping, the way landscaping should be.
Are your basement walls bowing, crumbling, or failing? Hi, I'm Tony Hafford with TC Hafford Basement Systems, all things basementy. Our Stable Lock wall system offers a patented, affordable, and permanent solution to save your foundation walls. It stabilizes, fills voids, and structurally repairs, leaving a new smooth surface. All the strength of new walls. Call TC Hafford Basement Systems today for all things basementy.
In Maine, your pavement takes a beating. That's why Sturgis Construction does it right, from the ground up, specializing in asphalt paving, seal coating, and site prep. We build surfaces designed to handle harsh winters, heavy use, and everything in between. Whether it's a residential driveway or commercial lot, we deliver a finish that lasts. Protection, performance, professional results. Sturgis Construction. Asphalt done right.
You guys ready to crush it?
This is MasterChef Global Gauntlet.
Welcome to the floor as you've never seen it before.
Let's do it. I've been waiting on this.
We are so excited to see what the world has to offer.
That's my family history on a plate.
It's good.
A game-changing twist. The territory freeze. Disco ball. Can of worms.
High five.
You made that look easy.
MasterChef Global Gauntlet, followed by The Floor. All new tonight on Fox.
The town of Lincoln has appointed an interim town manager after the last individual to hold the position was fired less than 2 months after assuming the role. As we reported last week, former town manager Dennis Bullen was fired in a 4-3 vote by the town council. He was appointed on March 10th. At Monday evening's town council meeting, 4 councilors voted to appoint Wade Schaefer as interim manager effective immediately. Schaefer also serves as the senior pastor for Swans Island Church of God, which the town says that he will continue as he assumes that other role. A brewing company in the town of Brewer stepped up to help a state trooper and his family who lost everything. Mason's Brewing Company is donating a portion of their sales in support of State Trooper Greg Ramp and his family after they lost their home to a fire back in March. Ramp, his wife Natasha, their 2 kids, and their pets, which includes Trooper Ramp's canine, made it safely out of the blaze, but are now starting over with nothing. Ramp has served with Maine State Police since 2019, and he has also worked as a canine handler since 2022. The time now is 8:16. After the break, U.S. President Donald Trump is set to arrive in Beijing for his meeting with Leader Xi. More on that ahead. Plus, a woman from Searsport is helping people enjoy the outdoors in a bit of an unconventional way. Those stories and more straight ahead on Good Morning Maine.
Chevy drivers need a truck that shows up the same way they do. That's why Chevy Silverado is #1 in manufacturer loyalty. So they can go where others won't and always get it done. And as long as Chevy people keep showing up, we'll keep building trucks that do the same.
Now, well-qualified buyers can get 0% financing or $6,000 total cash allowance on this Silverado. Plus, get an additional $1,000 when you trade in an eligible vehicle. And now, eligible military personnel can get $1,000 bonus cash on most Chevy models.
Welcome to H&H Mercantile, your local destination for Maine-made treasures. We offer a wide array of products from handmade arts and crafts to pet essentials, games, and local products, such as maple syrup and farm-fresh eggs. Every visit supports Maine artisans and growers. Located at 31 East Main Street in Searsport, we are open 6 days a week. Come visit us today. It's more than a shopping trip. It's a celebration of our local community. Need a safe and caring place for your loved one during the day? At the Merchant Center Adult Day program, we provide a supportive environment where adults can enjoy companionship, engaging activities, and personalized care in a setting that feels like home. Our experienced staff is committed to meeting each person's unique needs while promoting independence, dignity, and overall well-being. Families can feel confident knowing their loved ones are in compassionate, capable hands.
You know Matt pretty well. Did he give you any advice?
He said that I should use 26 words or more.
When every word counts.
Trash panda.
Raccoon.
You hand me a trash panda! That was gangster!
It pays to choose wisely.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
You just won it!
25 words or less every weekday.
Weekdays at 9 on Fox 22.
A woman from Searsport is helping animals and people enjoy the Maine outdoors, one guided walking tour at a time. Our Jody Hersey explains.
The animals like to talk at Galloping Crow Farm in Searsport, especially the donkeys. The farm, which is home to several rescue donkeys, goats, dogs, and chickens, is located at the end of a dirt road. Rebecca Loveland is the owner.
When I was like 12, somewhere around that age, I had like this vision or dream of owning a farm on a hill. And you can't see it from here, but this goes uphill and it's the vision I have from my childhood, this is it. So it's like a dream literally came true.
This spring, Loveland started Down East Donkey Walks, an hour-long outing where you could enjoy the company of one of her 4 rescues during a guided stroll through the woods on her property.
There's Cedar and Ed are kind of a pair, and then Coda and Henry. Come here.
Loveland said donkeys are a perfect walking companion.
They're just so calm. They tend to not be skittish like horses. They love attention.
The farm is open every day but Wednesdays. Those interested in booking an outing can choose one of the following. Option 1 is hanging out in the pasture. Option 2 is going on a walk. And option 3 is a combination of both.
Donkey walks are very slow. This is a lot of the walk too, is they just snack the whole time.
Loveland said Down East Donkey Walks allows people to connect, unwind, and enjoy just being in the outdoors.
So I knew there was an interest. I didn't know there would be this much interest, and it's great. I love it.
In Searsport, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
For more information, you can head to our website at foxbangor.com to find the link to book your own donkey walking tour. Well, now let's get a full look at our forecast with meteorologist Devin Biggs.
Alrighty, Janessa, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Rogan's Memorials. Give the gift of comfort through thoughtful planning with locations in Bangor, Bucksport, and Lincoln. Alrighty, here we go. Advisories posted. We have a frost advisory and even a freeze warning up across the state. Both of these will be dropping this morning. Hopefully you've been protecting your flowers across parts of the state, as even though we're in growing season in some areas, definitely continuing to remain cold, at least as we enter spring. Wave heights are quiet for now, but we are going to be watching for increasing surf with some gusty winds, hence why we do have some small craft advisories that are in effect. Meanwhile, we are watching clouds approaching from the south and west and going towards the north and even to the east, as we are going to be watching for rain chances with this area low pressure moving in our direction. We are going to wait until the afternoon period for these to kind of move in and give us the rain chances again this afternoon into the evening period. So here's Futurecast right here. Again, we are going to be watching for the rain chances again during the afternoon period. The winds will be picking up too, and rain chances continuing into the overnight. Notice we will have some dry hours too, sprinkles and rain showers, and even through parts of Thursday. Again, rain showers, locally heavy downpours possible as we head towards Thursday night and parts of your Friday. Notice it kind of stalls out in some places too. So again, locally heavy downpours, perhaps some ponding and maybe perhaps some flash flooding, not out of the question in a few spots too. I'm going to run this through parts of Saturday. That's when this will back off. And notice where the heaviest rainfall will be. It's in drought-stricken areas, but this could be too much in a short amount of time. So be ready for that. Lesser amounts of rain as you head further off towards the east. So for today, here's what we're looking at. So mostly cloudy, afternoon rain showers with highs in the low 60s. And again, that south wind at around 25 miles per hour. Later on tonight, we have mid 40s, rain early, then clouds and some fog too, maybe a few sprinkles still or light showers, and that south wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Low 60s for tomorrow, mostly cloudy, some more rain showers, southeast wind at around 25 miles per hour. Already moving forward, your extended forecast, rain chances continue Friday with highs in the low 60s, mostly sunny Saturday. That'll be nice. Highs in the mid 70s. Partly cloudy Sunday. A chance for rain showers. Highs remaining in the mid 70s.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Bush. And I know what you're thinking, not another Bush, but hear me out. I'm not a politician or a lobbyist. I'm a veteran, an entrepreneur who created over 900 jobs in Maine. And as governor, I'll take a sledgehammer to Janet Mills' wasteful spending. I'll slash your taxes, property, and income, and put the Democrats' woke policies in the shredder. I'm Jonathan Bush. It's time for a... Johnny, don't touch the shredder!
I'm a big believer in super beta prostate. You'll notice less urges to urinate, and you won't be getting up at night for so many bathroom trips. I wouldn't say it if I didn't truly believe it.
It's mowing season. And Bad Boy Mowers has the best lineup in the game. Built to win with more power, advanced engineering, and performance that never quits. Whether you're playing on this field or this field. So this mowing season, raise your game and join the team. Bad Boy, mow with an attitude.
Honey, where's the countertop?
I sent it out to the granite shop this morning to be replaced.
Wow.
The quickest turnaround in the business, the Granite Shop in Sedgwick.
Now to Baltimore, and criminal charges being filed for a deadly bridge collapse. Here's ABC's Hannah Battah.
2 years after the deadly collapse of Baltimore's Key Bridge, the Justice Department has filed criminal charges against the operator of the cargo ship that crashed into it, claiming the company ignored safety issues and lied to investigators. Prosecutors allege Synergy Marine failed to address long-standing problems on the Dolly. They claim the use of improper fuel pumps crippled the ship's ability to restore steering power after 2 blackouts.
The indictment alleges that if the Dolly had been using the proper fuel supply pumps, then the vessel would have regained power in time to safely navigate under the Key Bridge.
The ship slammed into a supporting column of the bridge, causing it to collapse, killing 6 construction workers who'd been filling potholes. The sole survivor clung to a piece of steel in the water after escaping his work truck through its manual windows. The indictment also claims the company and the ship's technical supervisor falsified inspection records.
If the DOJ wouldn't have found what was going on and brought these charges, we would have never seen the purposeful destruction of materials, the purposeful hiding of what really caused this tragedy.
Synergy denies the allegations, saying the NTSB identified the probable cause of the incident was a loss of electrical power due to a loose signal wire connection, a defect outside of Synergy Marine's control. The indictment comes on the same day Maryland reached a $2 billion settlement with Synergy and the owner of the ship. Hannah Battah, ABC News, New York.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump is set to arrive in Beijing today for his highly anticipated summit with leader Xi at a restless moment for a world worried about war, trade, and artificial intelligence. The visit occurs at a delicate moment for Trump's presidency as his popularity at home has been weighed down by the U.S. and Israel's war with Iran and rising inflation as a consequence of that conflict. The president is seeking a win by signing deals with China to buy more American food and aircraft, saying he'll be talking with Xi more about trade than anything else. The Trump administration hopes to begin the process of establishing a board of trade with China to address differences between the countries. The board could help prevent the trade war ignited last year after Trump's tariff hikes, an action China countered through its control of rare earth minerals. That led to a 1-year truce last October. Well, Canvas says it struck a deal with the hackers behind a large-scale cyber attack. Instructure, the parent company of online learning service system Canvas, said in a statement it has, quote, reached a deal with the unauthorized actor involved, end quote, in a cyber attack earlier this month. The company did not specify whether the deal involved a payment or name of who was behind the attack, despite hacking group Shiny Hunters, who conducted a smaller breach at Instructure last year, claiming responsibility for this month's disruption. Hackers had threatened to leak data from nearly 9,000 schools worldwide and 275 million individuals if schools failed to pay a ransom. Instructure says the breach appeared to involve student ID numbers, email addresses, names, and messages that were exchanged on the platform. Passwords, dates of birth, government identification, or financial information does not appear to have been included. The company says that the data was returned and destroyed as part of this week's deal, but Instructure also says there's no way to know if that data was erased for good. Cyber experts say that they're skeptical of the deal, suggesting a ransom was likely paid, but cautioned, quote, payment does not end that threat. New data shows Americans' household debt has now reached an all-time high. A report from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found U.S. household debt, including mortgages, credit cards, auto, and student loans, has reached $18.8 trillion in the first 3 months of the year. According to that report, the increase in overall debt was reportedly driven by higher balances on mortgages and on auto loans. The Federal Reserve found that while student loan debt slightly decreased to $1.66 million, many borrowers are falling behind on payments, with more than 10% of student loan balances past due. Credit card debt also dipped by $25 million during the first quarter of the year, with outstanding balances at $1.25 trillion. The New York Fed says while Americans' overall credit is, quote, stable, there are weaknesses among younger consumers and lower-income households. The record high number comes amid rising inflation, as prices rose 3.8% in April compared to a year earlier. Now to Michigan and a new warning about scammers getting more sophisticated trying to steal your money. Here's ABC's Hannah Battah.
The woman in this story wants to hide her identity, but she's sharing just how easy it was to be convinced to hand over nearly all her life savings. She told our station in Grand Rapids it started with a pop-up on her iPad.
It said, call immediately. Call Apple. So I did, not knowing. And then that's when he said that there's illegal stuff going on your phone.
The person on the other end of the phone claimed to be Mark Gray, a top official at the Federal Trade Commission, who said her identity was being used by drug smugglers to buy cars and launder money.
To get my name cleared, I would have to take everything out of my accounts.
The scammers used urgency and some key words to get her to comply.
That's what these scammers rely on, is urgency, fear, confusion.
She pulled out $170,000 from one bank and $60,000 from another. The scammers, 4 separate times, sent someone to her house to pick up the cash inside these boxes from the bank. During each pickup, the man impersonating the Federal Trade Commission official was on the phone with her.
So what we're seeing is the fraudsters are actually directly coaching, right, the victims of these scams to say those different scenarios to actually bypass our different processes and controls that we have here at the bank.
The fraudsters even made her sign a non-disclosure agreement. Hannah Battah, ABC News, New York.
Coming up on the second half of the newscast, the Maine Discovery Museum will be telling us all about their summer camps. This and more as Good Morning Maine continues.
It doesn't matter how big or small my question might be. I know that there's going to be somebody there that can help guide me in the right direction. You're not just an account number to them. You're a person, and it feels like that. I'm a member.
I love to mow my lawn. It's not a job, it's a passion for me. I get out there, I enjoy the sun, I love how it cuts, and I sincerely love my John Deere tractor. I love the first cut in the spring, and I love the last cut in the fall. You know, every once in a while, of course, it needs a part or it needs something. And it's so nice knowing that United Ag and Turf is there, and whenever we need them, they're here. And it's always been a great experience.
You come to a credit union to work because you actually like helping people.
You get to be a part of really life-changing moments.
It builds a really rewarding professional career.
And that's why I like credit unions.
You're watching Fox 22, Bangor.
April showers have brought May flowers and, well, maybe some more showers here in Maine. And it's also caused grass on the lawns nationwide to kick into gear after the winter season. And it keeps growing. Some people may be getting ready to trim it down if they haven't already. But before a mower makes its way onto your yard, landscaping and agricultural experts are sharing tips which could help you get a green thumb and a healthier lawn. Fox News' Kevin Uretsky reports.
As lawns across the country keep growing greener this spring, landscaping experts say there's plenty people should keep in mind before getting ready to mow.
We're looking to have you maintain your lawn somewhere between 2.5 inches and 3 inches.
Determining the actual height of your grass can help prevent it from being cut too short.
You don't have to have a fancy device like this, but you can buy these online. This is called the Turf Check 2.
Keeping grass at recommended levels helps the roots grow deeper, maintain soil moisture, and can help yards toughen up ahead of summer's heat. Turfgrass scientist and Purdue University professor Kel Bigelow explains an industry trick called the 1/3 rule, which can help.
You don't want to mow off more than 1/3 of the leaf blade in any one single mowing. Okay, so if you're mowing, say, at 3 inches, you can allow it to grow to 4.5 inches, and that's going to be most healthy.
Cutting grass too short can stress it out and make it more susceptible to things like drought and insects. Meanwhile, it's important to keep mower blades sharp because dull ones can prove harmful.
You should be starting with a very sharp edge, and then probably within the first month, swap out the dull blade.
And when it comes to applying fertilizer to your lawn this season, experts recommend a light hand.
In general, if we can feed a lawn about 3 times a year, that's going to be best. As far as the spring feedings, is be very, very careful with how much you put out, because this is naturally a time of year that plants are actively growing. And feeding leads to growth, and growth leads to more mowing.
Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
Now let's turn things right back over to meteorologist Evan Biggs.
Alrighty, Janessa, thank you very much. Happy Wednesday. Your first weather forecast brought to you by Rogan's Memorials. Give the gift of comfort through thoughtful planning with locations in Bangor, Bucksport, and Lincoln. Alrighty, here we go. We have frost advisories and even some freeze warnings across the state, and that will last until later on this morning at around 9 a.m. Even small craft advisories along the coast as well. Meanwhile, as we do move forward this morning, we are watching some clouds that are moving in from the southwest and going toward the north and east with another area of low pressure that is currently on the way. And this will give us some opportunities for rain showers, but we will have to wait until the afternoon period for that to move in. And there it is right there tracking off towards the east at this moment in time. Meanwhile, moving forward today, Futurecast watching the clouds approaching. There is the rain this afternoon and even some rain showers lingering into the evening, some breaks at times, and we'll be watching for more rain as we head towards your Thursday. As for the gusty winds, again, we're going to be watching for gusts up to around 20 miles per hour. And again, those gusty winds continuing into the evening period too. Meanwhile, your hourly forecast moving forward, again, watching for clouds, afternoon chances for rain showers, temperatures in the 60s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Janessa?
Well, still to come here this morning, Jack Webb with sports. Don't go away.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating. Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
Even if you have moderate to severe eczema, you can feel the rhythm, feel the flow. And Dupixent helps you feel the heal. It helps calm the key source of inflammation under the skin that can cause eczema. Some adults saw fast itch relief after the first dose and long-lasting clear skin at 1 year. Many even saw 90% clear skin. Severe allergic reactions, including skin reactions, can occur. Get help right away for face, mouth, tongue, or throat swelling, wheezing, or trouble breathing. Tell your doctor right away of new or worsening eye problems like eye pain or vision changes, skin symptoms, joint aches and pain, or a parasitic infection. Don't change or stop other treatments without talking to your doctor. Stay ahead of eczema and help heal your skin from within. Dupixent, the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists and allergists. Ask your eczema specialist about Dupixent today.
Is that a compression nut?
Oh!
We got a duct taper.
Paramount Paving, Maine's go-to for all your paving and seal coating. Paramount Paving offers commercial and residential paving and seal coating services throughout eastern and central Maine. Give us a call for a free estimate today. Paramount Paving. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
It's a special Fox UFL Friday. The Orlando Storm face the Dallas Renegades live at Fort Hood. It all kicks off at 8 Eastern on Fox.
Welcome back in, folks. The Hudson baseball team is fresh off their North Atlantic Conference title win and are now gearing up for the NCAA tournament this week. Our Max Sturm has a story.
The Hudson University Eagles are just days removed from their 7th consecutive North Atlantic Conference title.
Winning those big games really never gets old.
Winning championships is not only the goal, it has become the expectation.
Obviously, I know there's been a standard here for quite some time, and that goes before me. And obviously, you know, the senior class right now just came in and did a great job of setting the tone right away, especially for a large freshman class that we had.
Instilling a championship culture year after year goes deeper than just the play on the field.
From top to bottom, it's really a group effort. Even the guys, you know, that might not be in the game, they're cheering hard on the side, you know, helping us in between innings, getting the guys loose, you know, always just staying ready for when their number's called.
A team's standard and mindset are deprived from its leaders and those who came beforehand.
This senior class has been here for the past 4 years, obviously, and they've won 4 straight conference championships. And it goes much before them. That senior class from last year did a great job of it, obviously, with winning 5 straight conference championships. And really, that standard has been here for even well before these guys have been here.
I was just able to learn from the guys before me. I grew up local guy right here in Bangor, so I saw the program kind of on its way up. And I had great leaders in front of me, Kobe Roderson, Jackson Curtis, Tanner Evans, like other local guys that I could really build after.
Another conference title means yet another trip to the NCAA tournament.
It's awesome, super fast pace, you know, some of the best baseball you'll see around, you know, at any level.
We're super excited, and obviously the standard now is to win games at a regional.
The Eagles will face number 9 Endicott College on Friday, and they're treating it like any other game on their schedule.
We don't really care about who we play against. We just know, you know, we got to take care of business on our side of things and handle the things that we need to take care of, and, you know, we're pretty confident heading into this.
In Bangor, Max Sturm, ABC 7 and Fox 22 Sports.
Thank you for that, Max. We'll shift gears to hockey as the Maine Mariners and Wheeling Nailers will face off in Game 4 of their best-of-7 North Division Finals on Tuesday night at the Cross Insurance Arena. The Nailers going into Tuesday were leading 2-1. The Mariners climbed back in the series on Monday night thanks to a hard-fought 6-3 win. Mariners opening up a 3-0 lead early in the first period and never looked back. It was a total team effort. Now a critical Game 4 was next, and a chance to tie the series at 2 apiece.
Very critical. I mean, we don't want to go down 3-1. We just got to play our game, and, you know, I think good things will happen. Yeah, we're looking to even up the series and, you know, have an extra game here as well.
Every game from here on out to Game 7 is how we're looking at it. So just coming out, playing physical, and playing as a team and staying connected should help us get the win tonight.
The two teams facing off in Game 4 down at the Cross Insurance Arena early in the first. Mariners on the attack. Jacob Hudson with a beautiful pass to Mac Andreeff for the score. Mariners on top 1-0. Still in the first. Nailers looking for the equalizer, but look at the sequence of saves from Luke Cavanali. Still 1-0 Mariners after that. Late in the period, Nailers on the power play. Look at the great passing here. Ryan McAllister to Braden Edwards for the beautiful redirect, and we're tied at 1 after 1. Second period now. Great defense here from Zach Muscati, who just gets a stick on McAllister, possibly saving a goal there. Late in the period, Wheeling's Zach Undral breaks in to only get robbed by Luke Cavanali. What a glove save. It was tied at 1 after regulation. On to overtime, and in double OT, the Mariners won to tie the series at 2 games apiece. Game 5 will be Wednesday night down in Portland. We'll finish locally where the Herman baseball team hosted John Bapst on Tuesday afternoon. Boudreaux on the mound for Bapst, Fowler for Herman. We pick it up in the 4th. Colby Haggerty bloops one into shallow left, but Bapst can't capitalize in that frame. On the early next inning, early bottom of the frame now, Mason Kinney slaps one into center field to get the inning started for the Hawks. 2 batters later, Eli Cormier gets one by the shortstop as Kinney rounds third and heads home to make it 1-0 Hawks. To the 6th, still 1-0, runner on third for Herman. They're looking for more, but the insurance run is denied by Aiden Ouellette, who makes a diving catch to end the inning. A web gem there. Bapst trying to rally in the 7th now, but it's routine ground ball to Josh Pangberg, who makes the play and ends the game. Herman wins by a score of 1-0. That is all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
We've got a 100-year-old company here, and it's because of the service, the quality, and the experience. It gets done right.
I think we've been doing it for so long. The only thing that we do, that when we walk into a room, we automatically know how to treat that window. We can take any product that the customer's looking for and make it work in just about any situation that they present us with. So
there's no reason to be overwhelmed. No. We can help you through it.
We're not going anywhere. We've been around for 100 years.
Carpets looking tired, stained, or just plain dirty? It's time to call the pros. At C&R Carpet Cleaning, we use deep steam technology to remove dirt, odors, pet hair, and allergens fast. Fresh, clean carpets, healthier home. That's the C&R promise. Visit our Facebook page for a free estimate or call us today, 631-7380. Step into clean with C&R Carpet Cleaning.
Got old metal and junk cars? Turn that clutter into cash at Daddy and Daughters. We make recycling easy, fast, and fair. From Skowhegan to Dover Foxcroft, from Troy to Lee, you can trust our certified scales and friendly service, offering top prices for junk vehicles in Maine. Whether you drop off or we pick up, Daddy and Daughters covers central and eastern Maine. Come see us at one of our 4 locations and watch your scrap pay off. Daddy and Daughters, turn scrap into cash.
Think you know Robert Charles? Think again. While President Trump was crushing the woke left, DC insider Bob Charles was cashing in, making millions holding lucrative contracts with the woke DEI Never Trump Obama administration. Bob Charles, looking the other way, abandoning the MAGA movement, working for liberal DEI-loving Democrats, failing President Trump. Anything for a buck chuck can't be trusted. Trump traitor Robert Charles, woke, radical, wrong. Just too liberal for Maine.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, today we are joined by Kim and Rachel, who are with the Maine Discovery Museum. We always love having them in and hearing what is to come at the museum. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. So you guys have some great, honestly, amazing summer camp opportunities. You were just telling me a little bit about them. Can you kind of dive into the grade levels that are available and the time and the length throughout the summer that those are available as well?
Sure, yeah. So our summer camp program is pretty special, I think, for offerings in Bangor, because our mission at the museum is to help people of all ages discover the world around them through creative exploration and science.
Yes.
And summer camps is one of the great ways we do that for the youth audience coming to the museum. So our primary age level for camps, we have 9 weeks of summer camp all summer long.
Yeah.
And our primary audience is those entering 1st through 3rd grade. So 7 of our weeks are dedicated to that age group.
Gotcha.
We do also have 2 weeks dedicated to entering 3rd through 5th grade. So our entering 3rd grade students can actually spend the whole summer with us. We also have one very special off-site camp that is art and ecology, and it's for students entering 4th through 6th grade, and it's all about how art and science interact with each other, especially in the natural sciences, and it takes place out in the Orono Land Trust. And we have partners that come in for that camp, like 4-H and Autobahn, Maine Autobahn. So that's a really special one.
Yeah, that's so fun. And you were telling me a little bit about the themes to these camps, because every camp has a theme, of course, related to science. Yeah. Can you tell me what some of those are?
Yeah, we're really excited to talk about, so we partnered with NASA, and we're going to be offering an Astro Camp this year that we're very excited to do. So it's all about space exploration and going above and beyond with the stars. And then we're also doing a Mysteries at the Museum, where students will be discovering science through forensics. So they're going to be solving a little bit of a crime.
Gotcha, gotcha. Like going around with the cue cards and doing a little mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so fun. Well, you guys, also I was saying before, this is a great opportunity for kids. I know there's a lot of different sports camps available for kids out there during the summertime, but not everyone is interested in doing that, and so this is a wonderful opportunity if you have a kid interested in what you guys do to sign them up and get them involved in this. I'm sure there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on as well. How is it prepping for these summer camps?
It's pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome, yeah.
It's really good.
We started in December writing curriculums and planning out the camps, figuring out which ones we were going to do this summer, and now we're kind of getting into like the phase where we're starting to prep all the materials. We're looking at who's going to be teaching what camps, so it's really exciting. It's a long process, but it's such a rewarding process. So
Right, I didn't even think of that too. Like, you guys aren't just kind of camp counselors, you're really teachers too. So you have to have that curriculum, but then, you know, also lead the kids and help them with all of this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's really a special opportunity for us because learning is alive in all of our camps.
Yeah.
So, but through play as the avenue. And we use the museum as one of our teaching tools. We're really lucky to be in the museum.
Yep.
So we will incorporate, especially that Mysteries at the Museum.
So fun.
They will be going out with a Geiger counter and finding uranium glass in the museum. So we really use that as a tool that makes us very different than other camp opportunities.
Yep.
And all of our camps are hands-on and really based on student interest. So we put a lot of effort into our themes each year and making sure that they're things that kids are interested in.
Yeah.
We're going to get them excited to come join us.
Oh, well, that's so fun. I'm sure you guys have more information and your rates and probably, you know, the time of day that these camps are going on your website. What is that URL?
MaineDiscoveryMuseum.org.
Okay, perfect. And you want to shout out your social media real quick as well?
Absolutely. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, so you can find us anywhere on there. We do lots of short video content and lots of fun updates, so definitely check us out on there.
Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much for coming in and sharing all of this information with
Thanks,
us.
Janessa.
Thank you.
We're going to turn things right back over to meteorologist Devin Biggs.
Alrighty, Janessa, thank you very much. Your full weather forecast brought to you by Rogan's Memorials. Give the gift of comfort through thoughtful planning with locations in Bangor, Bucksport, and Lincoln. Alrighty, here we go. Advisories posted. We have a frost advisory and even a freeze warning up across the state. Both of these will be dropping this morning. Hopefully you've been protecting your flowers across parts of the state as even though we're in growing season in some areas, definitely continuing to remain cold, at least as we enter spring. Wave heights are quiet for now, but we are going to be watching for increasing surf with some gusty winds, hence why we do have some small craft advisories that are in effect. Meanwhile, we are watching clouds approaching from the south and west and going towards the north and even to the east, as we are going to be watching for rain chances with this area low pressure moving in our direction. We are going to wait until the afternoon period for these to kind of move in and give us the rain chances again this afternoon into the evening period. So here's Futurecast right here. Again, we are going to be watching for the rain chances again during the afternoon period. The winds will be picking up too, and rain chances continuing into the overnight. Notice we will have some dry hours too, sprinkles and rain showers, and even through parts of Thursday. Again, rain showers, locally heavy downpours possible as we head towards Thursday night and parts of your Friday. Notice it kind of stalls out in some places too, so again, locally heavy downpours, perhaps some ponding and maybe perhaps some flash flooding, not out of the question in a few spots too. I'm going to run this through parts of Saturday. That's when this will back off, and notice where the heaviest rainfall will be. It's in drought-stricken areas, but this could be too much in a short amount of time, so be ready for that. Lesser amounts of rain as you head further off towards the east. So for today, here's what we're looking at. So mostly cloudy, afternoon rain showers with highs in the low 60s, and again, that's south wind at around 25 miles per hour. Later on tonight, we have mid-40s, rain early, then clouds and some fog too, maybe a few sprinkles still or light showers, and that south wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Higher gusts cannot be ruled out. Low 60s for tomorrow, mostly cloudy, some more rain showers. Southeast wind at around 25 miles per hour. Already moving forward, your extended forecast. Rain chances continue Friday with highs in the low 60s. Mostly sunny Saturday. That'll be nice. Highs in the mid 70s. Partly cloudy Sunday. A chance for rain showers. Highs remaining in the mid 70s.
Serving is more than a tradition. It's a call, and you've answered it. It's your legacy, and it deserves to be recognized. That's why we're proud to extend exclusive offers to military personnel active or retired. You move this country forward, and we're riding with you.
Get this low-mileage lease on this 2026 Chevrolet Equinox for around $299 per month. Plus, eligible military personnel can get $1,000 bonus cash on most Chevy models.
You can't see third-hand smoke, but you may smell it. Third-hand smoke is toxic chemicals left behind by smoking and vaping. These chemicals stick to surfaces in your home and car and linger for years. They're on floors, furniture, toys, everywhere children and pets touch and play. What you can't see can still cause harm. Protect your family from third-hand smoke. Visit MaineQuitLink.com to learn the risks.
Meet the toughest team in the game. Bad Boy Mowers and Bad Boy Tractors. These powerhouses will do whatever it takes to win. Putting in the work with unrivaled engineering, game-changing features like heated seats and an Alpine entertainment system, plus durable implements and style that's in a league of its own. Bad Boy Mowers and Tractors. Power, performance, attitude.
Think you're good at trivia? Arrange these holidays, these historic firsts, these animals. By the way,
I have no idea.
Congratulations! You have built the perfect line! I'm Deborah Norville, and this is The Perfect Line.
Onion rings before, in between onion rings and pizza.
Definitely after. Oh, this is what happy looks like.
Weekdays at 10 on Fox 22.
Well, two musical heavyweights join together for a special kind of duet. Former Black Sabbath bassist Terry Geezer Butler and pop star Debbie Gibson teaming up to help save dogs from medical experiments. The pair praising ongoing efforts to find new homes for roughly 1,500 beagles that were bought from a dog breeder and research facility Riglin Farms in Wisconsin. Butler and Gibson spending time with the rescue beagles that were transported from the facility on Tuesday to the Humane Society, 1 month after the Washington, D.C.-based Center for Humane Economy and the Big Dog Ranch Rescue in Florida struck a deal to buy the dogs from Riglin Farms.
It was so profound to be able to hold each of these dogs in our arms and to be able to assure them that their new life is starting, and that they were going on a grand adventure now. And I think a lot of people in the world right now feel helpless. It's chaotic times. And this is something people can do. People can take one voiceless being at a time and give them their dignity back.
It's just heartbreaking to see that animals that I've grown up with and that have been my best friend are treated like this. And thank God this is a historical day for, I think it's 1,500 beagles now coming out of these places.
Numerous groups at MPW are working to move the dogs from Riglin to facilities where they can get veterinarian care and then be moved to shelters across the country before they are then put up for adoption. Well, some officers make an off-duty call to help save a little sea lion. An off-duty Brisbane, California police officer spotted the malnourished sea lion on a busy roadway. Officers quickly blocked traffic to protect the animal and keep it from wandering away. before experts from the Marine Mammal Center then helped rescue the small mammal. The sea lion named Sierra is now being treated at a local veterinarian hospital for treatment and rehabilitation, with hopes for a later release back into the wild. Well, that's all the time that we have left for this morning, but as always, we thank you for joining us. Have a great day, everyone.
Today on 25 Words or Less, whenever I